Hey everybody, it's Dee Dee. And let me start off by saying that this lesson will take about 30 minutes, but I would love for you to wait and listen when you have an extra 30 minutes to do an activity that will follow the lesson. So allow yourself a full hour for this particular one, if you will, please. John 15:5. I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who abide in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Wow. Just stop and think about what Jesus is saying. That is a powerful statement. With Jesus, we can do great things, produce much fruit. Without him, we can do nothing. That makes me want to really understand what this word abiding means. If abiding is so crucial, how do I abide? Just how do I abide in the Lord? I bet if I gave you time to come up with an answer, it would be something like mine. Hopefully, during the first part of my day, I would give God and His Word my time. Read it, study it, maybe memorize it. That would be my first answer, and I'd probably give that one the most weight, which I hope would set me up to be available to Him throughout my day and open to His voice and His direction. Psalm 119:105. Thy word is a lamp for my feet and a light for my path. Proverbs 4:20-22. My son, attend to my words. Let them not depart from your sight. Keep them in the center of your heart, for they are life to those who find them and healing to all their flesh. Let's look at a pivotal time in the life of Joshua. First, let me set the scene. The Israelites are poised to enter the promised land for the first time. Moses cannot go with them because of an act of disobedience, but God does allow him to climb Mount Nebo and see the entire land of milk and honey, which he has promised to his people. And then Moses dies. He was about 120 years old. Now God calls Joshua to take Moses' place. Joshua is over 80 years old, and to say he had some mighty big shoes to fill is a huge understatement. Moses was an amazing, great man of God, an incredible leader to millions of people for 40 extremely difficult years in the desert. He led with integrity and faith, and the people respected him and trusted him. On top of that, God spoke to him directly and audibly. Can you imagine how intimidated and insecure Joshua would be about his ability to take over Moses' job? Well, look at these verses with me, or listen. Joshua 1:1-9. These are the words of encouragement and instruction that God speaks to Joshua at this pivotal time in his life. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' minister, Moses, my servant, is dead. So now arise, take his place, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land which I am giving to the Israelites. Every place upon which the sole of your foot shall tread, that I have given to you, as I promised Moses. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not fail you or forsake you. Be strong, confident, and of good courage, for you shall cause this people to inherit the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. Only you be strong and very courageous, that you may do according to all the law, that would be the word, which Moses my servant commanded you. Turn not from it to the right hand or the left. I would say focus on it, that you may prosper wherever you go. This book of the law, or the word, shall not depart out of your mouth. So I would say speak it, but you shall meditate on it. In parentheses, I've got think it, day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then you shall make your way prosperous, and then you shall deal wisely and have good success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong, vigorous, and very courageous. Be not afraid, neither be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Okay, here at this most crucial time in Joshua's life are God's instructions to him for how to live and lead. God says to Joshua, focus on the word. Do not turn from it to the left or the right. That's verse 7. Think on the word. That's verse 8. Speak the word. Verse 8. Do the word. Verse 8 again. And if he did those things, and if we do those things, here is what God promised Joshua and what God promises us if we will stay close to his word. You will make your way prosperous, you will deal wisely, and you will have good success. That's verse 8 again. Don't we want all that? Our way made prosperous, our dealings done with wisdom, and our life successful? Well, 2 verses, 7 and 8, right here in Joshua, give the prescription for just how to realize these 3 promises in our lives. Nothing we spend our time on is more vitally important than abiding in the Lord and in his word. It is more important than cleaning our house, doing the wash, cooking meals for our family, running errands. It is more important than anything we do at our job or in our profession. Abiding in the Lord and in his word is more important than spending time with our spouse, our children, our grandchildren, or our friends. It is more important than finishing that project or helping our children with their homework. It is more important than going to church or giving time to that ministry. Giving God our time and attention, abiding, outweighs anything else in our life in terms of importance, priority, or value. How can I make such a strong statement? Because the success of every relationship, every job, every commitment depends on how involved we are in our relationship with the Lord. Abide in the vine, for apart from him, we can do nothing. Here is a great story. It's called Sharpen Your Axe. A young man approached the foreman of a logging crew for a job. The boss said hiring him would depend on how well he could chop down a tree. The young man totally impressed the boss by how skillfully he could get the job done. He was hired on the spot, told he could start on Monday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday rolled by. On Thursday afternoon, the foreman told the young man, "You can pick up your paycheck on the way out today." Confused, the young man said, "I thought we got paid on Friday." The boss replied, "Normally you would, but we are letting you go because you have fallen so behind on the job. Our chopping charts show that you've dropped from first place to last place in just 4 days. The young man objected, "But I'm a hard worker. I arrive first. I leave last. I even work right through my breaks." The boss was well aware of the young man's integrity and hard work. He thought for a minute and then he asked, "Have you been sharpening your axe?" The young man replied, "No, sir. I've been working too hard. I've been way too busy to take time for that." I wonder if you get the point. Our lives are like that. We get so busy, we don't take time to sharpen our axe. People today are busier than ever, but less happy than ever. Why is that? Could it be that they've forgotten to stay sharp? There is nothing wrong with activity and hard work, but God does not want us to get so busy that we neglect the truly important things in life, like taking time to read our Bible, to pray, or to listen for the still, small voice of God. When our 4 children were little, I remember thinking often, how can I spend any time with God? I barely have time to breathe. And when I finally got to bed, I was too exhausted. But I tell you, those mornings I got up early before the children and took time with the Lord were so much sweeter, so much less stressful. It was worth every minute of lost sleep, and it was only 30 minutes. So no, you don't have to have your quiet time with God first thing in the morning. I'm sure any time that works for you makes God happy. But truly, it's the best way to start the day, starting it off with Him. It definitely helps me to think more of Him all day long, and it definitely shows up in how I approach and handle the entire rest of my day. I am not a very disciplined person by nature, and having a consistent quiet time has most certainly been one of the biggest struggles in my Christian walk. I've had to work to make it an important part of my daily life. I've done a lot of apologizing to God for pushing Him to the back burner, and I've done a lot of praying, asking Him to help me incorporate this discipline into my everyday. Even now that I'm retired, I usually have plenty of time for God every morning. I still have to make the decision to sit down and give my time and attention to Him and His Word. For most of my Christian life, I've taught Bible study and volunteered at church or for Christian ministries. My last volunteer job probably averaged 30 hours a week. At the beginning of that volunteer job, I thought all the time I spent doing God's work took the place of reading my Bible, praying, or having a quiet time. How wrong I was. I got to the point that the ministry was hollow, meaningless to me. It was like I was just going through the motions. All those volunteer hours of doing God's work were just like that guy trying to chop down trees with a dull axe. When I realized how vital it was for me to spend a designated time alone with God, any ministry I did took on a whole new life. We have to make time for God. If we wait until we have time, it will never happen. And if we don't take the time, make the time to sharpen the axe, we will eventually become dull and totally lose our effectiveness. Let me circle back around to the first of this lesson. Here's what Jesus said: abide in the vine. I'm going to borrow some of this from a wonderful book by Max Lucado. One day, several years ago, I was in a low place. I was bottomed out, burned out, and weary. I was discouraged with not enough energy or enthusiasm to do what I was needing to do. I had no joy. It was all gone. I was just going through the motions for several months. No one outside my family could tell I was feeling like that because I wear my got it all together mask well. So on the outside, I still looked happy and in control. But my heart felt flat, just completely flat. And I just couldn't get past those negative feelings. I could not get it all together no matter how hard I tried. It was such an awful feeling. During this time when I prayed, I'd go outside and walk. That way I could avoid so many distractions, and I enjoyed being out in nature. At that particular time in my life, even though I was going to church every Sunday and teaching a Bible study once a week, I'd only been walking and spending quiet time with God every now and then, at best 1 or 2 times a week. On one of those rare times, I took my normal 2-mile route and started my praying right away. It went something like this. Well, here I am again, God. I don't much want to be here. I feel like a hypocrite talking to you when I feel so not caring about anything and when I've spent so little time with you. But you know that anyway, so I might as well just be honest. I need help, God. I need some joy in my life. I'm asking you, God, please give me back my joy. Some days later, maybe it was a week, I rediscovered John 15. You might want to read through that chapter this week. It's a good one. For now, I'm just going to zoom in on several verses. These are Jesus' words. John 15:1. I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. Now to John 15:4-10. You abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, so neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him, bears much fruit, for apart from me you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. My Father is glorified by this, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples. Just as the Father has loved me, I have also loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love. Just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may remain in you, and that your joy may be full. Okay, who in verse 1 does this passage say is the gardener? The answer is God. And who is the vine? The answer is Jesus. As Christians, what are we called? We are branches attached to the vine. So God is the gardener, Jesus is the vine, and we Christians are the branches. As branches, what is supposed to be our job? The most common answer when you ask that question is bear fruit, but that is not right. Let's imagine ourselves in a real garden. Check it out. If a branch is fruitless, does it do any good for the gardener to demand that it bear fruit? Or does it do any good for a branch to make up its mind that today I will make fruit? Can a branch grit its teeth and strain with all its might and make a grape appear? Of course it can't. So take note, a branch on its own cannot make fruit. Now, as Christians, what is our fruit supposed to be? There are 9 of them. If you remember the song, you can sing it, but I'm not going to sing. The 9 are love, peace, patience, self-control, gentleness, kindness, joy, goodness, faith. Please note, relevant to my story, several paragraphs back, that joy is a part of this list. A branch alone cannot make fruit happen, and neither can we. That's why nowhere in these verses does Jesus tell us to go out and bear fruit. So what does he tell us branches to do? Look with me in John 15. Jesus cannot be any more clear. John 15:4, abide in me. Verse 4, again, unless you abide in the vine. Verse 4, a third time, abide in me. Verse 5, if any abide in me and I abide in them, they will produce fruit. Verse 6, abide in me. Verse 7, abide in me. Verse 7 again, abide in my words. Verse 9, abide in my love. Verse 10, abide in my love. So what's our task? Stay close to the vine. Fruit comes from the vine, and so does joy. And so does life. The life that is truly life. The life Jesus said in John 10:10, he came to give us abundant life, life full to overflowing. In John 15, Jesus is telling us how we grow our spiritual fruit. He repeats himself so often because he wants us to get it. Apart from the vine, the branch can do nothing. John 15:5. And finally, look again at what verse 11 says. Look at what Jesus promises to do if we do all of this abiding. These things I have spoken to you so that my joy may be in you and your joy will be made full. Please just pause and think about this. Abide, abide, and then abide some more. And then my joy will be in you and your joy will be made full. Wow. And here's another cool fact about abiding. If you back up to John 14:2, Jesus tells us that in his Father's house are many mansions. Guess what the literal translation of the Greek word for mansions is? It is abodes or abiding places. When we get to heaven, we will have an abiding place, a mansion, where we are constantly abiding in the presence of God. How very wonderful is that? Now, I told you at the beginning that what I wanted you to allow for was an extra 30 minutes. That's what we're now going to use this 30 minutes for. We're going to abide in the vine for a while. Hopefully you're listening to this at home or somewhere where you can get alone and quiet for the next 30 minutes. We are going to abide in the vine, and you are going to need your Bible and your journal and a pen. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give you a list of Bible verses. I want you to read the first verse and then just be quiet and listen. Next, just put pen to paper and write anything that comes to your mind. It might be God's still small voice you hear, maybe a prayer that you want to write, maybe some questions or comments. God will speak to you, but He will communicate most often through your own thoughts. After you've written something, after reading the first verse, then go on to the next verse and do the same thing. Please use the entire time. Here are the Bible verses. John 15:5, continuing on to verses 7 through 11. Next, Isaiah 55:11. Proverbs 4:20 through 22. Psalm 91:1, and then verses 14 through 16. Or even if you have time, just go ahead and read all of Psalm 91. First of all, I'm going to pray, and then after I pray, your 30 minutes of abiding time will begin. I pray that the Lord will bless this precious time for all of you. Lord God, we thank you that we live in a country where we are free to abide in you. I thank you for this time to do just that. I ask that you use this time just for me and you, however you want to use it. I ask you to quiet my heart and my mind. Help me to listen. Help me to hear. I love you, my Father, and I thank you for loving me. Amen.